Hello, welcome to One-on-One Show on Ghanadistricts TV. My name is Emmanuel Frempong. On this edition, we'll be delving a bit deeper into Ghana's local governance structure. And to help me do this is one of Ghana's most experienced politicians. He is an expert in local governance and a former minister of local government, decentralization, and rural development. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest for this edition is Honorable Kwamena Ahwoi. Honorable, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Honorable, you're looking good.
Well, as you can do, you better look good.
Honorable, this is the first time I'm meeting you personally, and it's an honor to be with you this morning. We'll be looking at Ghana's local governance structure, and as an expert, and for the sake of my viewers, I want you to enlighten us more. When we talk about local governance, what are we looking at?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. This is the first time I'm meeting you as well. We are welcome in the office. Local governance, as the name implies, is about local people looking at local affairs.
Okay.
And since all politics is local, you need a very strong local government base if your national level political structures are to endure. And therefore, for the Fourth Republic, we have tried to construct a local government system that is capable of supporting the upper echelons of governance, mainly the structures at the national level. That's what local government is about.
So Honorable, let's look at some of the importance as an expert and a person who has been a minister of state. What are some of the significance or the importance of local governance?
Well, I'm not just a minister. I was actually the one that crafted the first document, the framework for Fourth Republic's
local governance.
Yes, okay. We call it. This was crafted in 1988. We call it the District Political Authorities and Modalities for District Level Elections.
Okay.
But the media immediately called it the Blue Book.
Okay.
The cover of the report was blue. And the basic tenets of local governance, as we anticipate and see it, are contained in that small booklet, just about 16 pages. We started by adopting as a theme for local government what we call democratic decentralization for development. Now, in those three key concepts are encapsulated the totality of what we thought we should do with the local government in the country. Democratic, because we wanted the people to be in charge of their own government at the local level. So local level democracy is an important component of our local government system currently. And that is why we introduced the district assembly system, which is a political system at the local level. And we made it possible for everybody, ordinary people, poor people, women, youth, to participate in local government by removing all the obstacles to participation that used to exist. For example, previous to that time, that was previous to 1989, to be a member of the local government system, you had to be literate in English.
Okay.
About half of our population at the time were not literate in English. So by our laws, we are legislated out of our local governance system 50% of the population. And poor people could not participate because giving money for food, clothing, and shelter was difficult for them. So how were they able to get money to pay deposit and campaign? So we made the entire local government system electoral process free. Everything is state sponsored. You don't pay a deposit, and even the electoral commission is required to, arrange what we call create a platform for you to campaign. We also made it non-partisan, so that political parties would not impose candidates
Okay.
On the local people, and the local people would look for a candidate among themselves, etc. So we erected a political structure for decentralization that basically belonged to the people, what we call participatory democracy. Then decentralization it subsists on the theory of what is called subsidiarity, which says that the things that affect the local people the most, and that can be done by the local people, must be done by the local people themselves. It must not be imposed from above. And therefore, to decentralize, you have to identify the functions of governance that are best performed by the local authorities rather than by central government. So in the Blue Book, we identify the functions that could very easily be performed by the local people. And education is one subject that affects almost everybody. Health is one subject that affects almost everybody. Registration of deaths, parks and gardens, spatial planning. So we identified all of those functions and provided a framework for transferring those functions to be performed by the local people, and for the technocrats who will be working at the local level to be responsible to the local authorities rather than to the central government. So that is a decentralization component of the theme that we selected. And then development. Politics is about development. What is it that the local authorities must do for the local people? They must build roads, they must build schools, they must build hospitals, etc., etc. So those things also we identified, and we created a mechanism for ensuring that resources, money was transferred or made available to the district assemblies to enable them to develop their districts. So it was within this theme of democratic decentralization for development that we crafted the component of decentralization.
Oh, okay. So, Honorable, you were part of a team that put together this framework. Sitting behind now, do you think we are making headways in what you propose? Do you think we are making headways as a country?
No, we are not making headway.
Why do you say so?
We are not making headway because the framework that we designed was not done by consensus.
Okay.
That framework was done under the auspices of the PNDC.
Okay.
Which actually was not an elected body, was not a democratic body.
Okay.
So it was only those of us in the PND system that worked this framework out. And it was this framework that was carried into the Fourth Republican Constitution by and large. And the Constitution also, some segments of the population boycotted its crafting. Yeah. So they did not take part. So from certain, with hindsight, it seems to me that some people who have been in government have really not had an appreciation of the vision that we had for local government. Okay. And so we have been having this forwards and backwards movement of the local government system as we envisaged it. NDC comes, they do certain things, NPP comes, they do the opposite, etc. And so it has me very worried. If I were to do this again at this time, I would insist that we have a broad national stakeholders conference and try to reach a consensus on the major components of the
But Honorable, let me chip in this. Have you ever, as a statesman now, have you ever been consulted about this thing?
No, not when my government, by my government I mean everybody.
The NDC,
NDC. When the NDC has been in power, I have been formally appointed as a consultant. Okay. But when NPP has been in power, no, I have not been.
And do you think you are bringing politics into our local governance system? From what you are saying,
the local government system is a political system.
Okay.
I think the question you want to ask is partisanship.
Partisanship, yeah.
Yes. Structurally, they're supposed to be no partisanship, but
Okay.
operationally, there is partisanship.
Okay.
Because the people who form the district assemblies, they belong to political parties.
That's true.
So obviously, their partisanship will reflect in what they do and what they say. Indeed, that is one of the reasons why some people are arguing for the district local government system to be made partisan. You remember that the current president, President Ahwoi, came very close
Yeah.
organizing a referendum for the system partisan.
Okay.
But at the very last, when the NDC kicked against it, so he was compelled to hold to organize a nationwide radio and TV broadcast.
But Honorable, let's remember that. Do you think that move was a good move by the president?
And I would say it was a good move, I wouldn't say it was a bad move.
Okay.
There are two things.
Okay.
As I'm saying, there should be consensus on the major features of the local government system.
Okay.
So they should have tried for a consensus.
Okay.
They talked to only the parliamentarians, and we thought that they had a consensus, because even if
Probably they thought the parliamentarians were reps of the people they represent.
but the rest of the people, they should understand what they are doing.
Okay.
Let me explain what I mean.
Okay.
I did a paper for the NDC, which they use as a basis for pulling out.
Okay.
And I said, look, partisanship, there's no problem. But there are certain preconditions that must exist. We must agree on certain things. Otherwise, we will be like the British, who voted for Brexit before they realized that they were not prepared for it. So I had 3 or 4 major things. First of all, the Constitution says that the president, after the local government elections, appoints 30% of the members of the assembly. It doesn't create, it's all right when the system is non-partisan.
Okay.
But if you make the system partisan, and the president party contests, and they win you, and he has to add another 30%, are you not stuffing the
That's
assemblies with it? So I said, first of all, we must agree to remove that provision in the Constitution about the president appointing 30%. Secondly,
that is let's educate our viewers.
Okay.
I mean, you are talking about the government appointees at the assembly level. Okay.
Yes, the government
Yeah.
appointees. Secondly, I have explained that one of the reasons we removed the requirement for the payment of deposits and campaigning for local government elections is because we know that the local people are poor, but we want the poor but capable ones to be able to participate.
Yeah.
So we have made district assemblies and unit committee elections free. Now, if you are going to make it partisan, are you going to continue to make it free, or are you going to move that cost onto the political parties?
Okay.
Now, that is a very, very heavy cost. In fact, many people don't realize that the cost of district assembly elections is much about 2 or 3 times the cost of presidential and parliamentary elections.
Okay.
So the cost is important. A party in government will be able to bear that cost. But a party in position to add about 7,000 assembly members and about 30,000 unit committee members to your costs, deposit, campaign costs, etc., is not going to be easy. So if we are going to make it partisan, we should again discuss that, is the state going to continue to bear the cost, or is going to continue to be free? The third important issue, everybody complains about extreme polarization of politics at the national level. Now, at the national level, yes, we debate, we argue, etc. What guarantees do we have that when we make the local level governance partisan, the polarization is not going to extend there? My fear is that not only is it going to extend there, when the disagreement arises, it becomes violent. They don't just talk, they fight. So we also have to create the conditions for making sure that the extreme polarization of politics at the national level does not stretch to the local level.
Perhaps, Honorable, people were also looking at the fact that making district assemblies elections partisan or will perhaps free it from external government control. Do you believe in that? Do you share in that?
I don't know how that is going to free it from government control. The way the government controls the district assemblies is through financing.
Okay.
Right? And that is why fiscal decentralization is an important component of any effective decentralization program. That is why, as part of the decentralization program, we introduced the concept of the common fund.
The common fund, okay.
Where 5% of total national revenue is to be assigned to the district assemblies for them to decide what they want to do. They will make the decisions about their developmental priorities, and they will have resources with which to implement those decisions.
But this is where people are also saying central government still has a say in what that money is supposed to be used for.
Some governments dictate to the district assemblies what they should do with the money that is supposed to be theirs.
Okay.
You say use 10%, 20% for school feeding, use this for community police, use this for this, use it. You are not allowing them to determine what they want to use their money for. You are imposing your priorities on them. And that is one of the major difficulties I have with the way we are implementing decentralization. We are not freeing them. We are not allowing the district assemblies, the local people, the freedom to decide on their priorities, and also the freedom to have the resources with which to implement the priorities that they have decided.
Viewers, we are still in discussion with Honorable Kwamena Ahwoi, who is an expert in local governance and a former Minister of Local Government and Rural Development. Honorable, in your submission, you made mention of cost. This is something that we cannot do away with. But let's look at cost and participation at the local level. We seem not to be making any headways when it comes to active participation, when it comes to district assembly elections. What do you have to say about that one as well? Once we are pumping in much money into it, but people seem not to have any kind of, don't want to participate in the election itself. What do you have to say about that?
I'm not sure that you have any evidence.
I'm just trying to compare it to our general elections.
In the election, the turnout.
Yeah, the turnout. The turnout, yes, please.
All over the world, turnout in local government elections is very, very low.
Okay.
Very, very low. But the thing is, if people see that their local governments are not responsible for providing the provision of their needs, they will not be interested in it.
Okay.
Even primary school, once we say we want to decentralize education, if you want a primary school, the Ministry of Education in Accra that builds it. But if we were doing effective decentralization, the money for that primary school would be in the account of the district assembly. So that if you, the local person, you want a primary school, you know that if you go to the district assembly, you will get a primary school. So when they ask you to vote for the people in that district assembly, you will go and vote. But when you know that it is a parliamentarian in Accra who will determine whether you get that primary school or not, then of course you will be more interested in the national election than in the local election. So in the countries where turnout for local government elections, especially if you go to the Scandinavian countries, the Western European countries, etc., you see that the turnout for local government elections is very high because almost all their developmental needs are provided by the local people, including water, electricity, etc. It's provided by the local people. We are not in a position to go that far yet, but we are in a position at least to decentralize education, health, and some of the other key functions that are dearest to the heart of local people.
Okay, you are still live on One Show on Ghanadistricts TV, and we are discussing with Honorable Kwamena Ahwoi. Don't go anywhere. We'll return after this short break. Are you worried about how to get to all the assemblies, contact of MMDCs or assembly members and other assembly officials, or lodging of complaints among others? Simply call the toll-free number on all networks and you'll be provided with excellent services. And hey, remember, it's a free call on all networks. Welcome back. We are still discussing with Honorable Kwamena Ahwoi, who is an expert in local governance. Honorable, welcome once again. Okay, so Honorable, let's look at accountability at the assembly level. The government appoints a DC to head politically, and he is accountable to the president. Don't you think there is this kind of conflict of interest because he will want to do the bidding of his master?
Well, it is not only true that the DC is accountable to the people. There's a provision in the law that allows the district assembly to pass a vote of no confidence in the DC with 2/3 of the number of the assembly. So if an assembly feels very strongly about the DC, they pass a vote of no confidence in him or her. That vote is supervised by the Electoral Commission. And once he passes that vote of no confidence, the president has no say. He is dismissed. At the beginning of the process, we used to have this happening a lot. Because remember when we started, there were no political parties. But once we had political parties, I realized that phenomenon dying out because, as I said, the system is supposed to be nonpartisan, but the members of the assembly have party loyalties, and therefore they see an expression of no confidence in the DC as an expression of no confidence in their president. They make it impossible for them to get the numbers of the 2/3 that they need to remove non-performing DCs. But structurally, it is possible. The DC is also accountable to the people through their assembly members, but it is not working in practice because of the partisanship.
Honorable, are you also aware that whole aspect of appointing and then seeking 2/3 of the majority of the assembly members has tended to become a money-making venture that people just kick against the president's nominee just to make money from him? Have you come across that?
Have you also heard that the whole of politics in Ghana has become monetized? It's one of the difficulties, the biggest problems we have in our in the Fourth Republic now. So don't let us make it appear as if it is.
It's at the assembly to the
assembly. West at the central government level. So the answer to your question is yes. Not just that I have heard. I know. Because I experienced it. In fact, there are two examples that I always that always come to mind. I think it was Rollins of Mills who wanted to appoint many women DCs. And whoever it was appointed, a woman DC for Green Central, not Achimoda, for Ghanaian, and then one for Shama. She, I remember her name because she's an NDC candidate for the 2024 election. They were both rejected. First, because they were women, and secondly, they said they wouldn't pay. And I advised, because I advised both Rollins and Mills, I'm not sure which, but whoever it was, I advised that for as long as they keep rejecting them, we should not replace them. So I think after about 1 year, without a DC, you won't get your common fund, you won't get development, etc. About 1 year, they themselves said, okay, we should bring them back. And they were sent back and they were approved. But I also know informally that something had to be done, not just they are being products, but something had to be done before they will be approved. So yes, it's a very real problem. But they call it their cocoa season.
Yes.
Their assembly members. And it is one of the the democratic deficits that we have to discuss and reach a consensus on as to how we will be able to remove it.
So Honorable, judging from your own case study, what you shared, the experience you shared with us, can we use that as a case study and say that we know that you want this person, but you are just using that as a money venture? So we'll keep repeating and bringing the person. Would that work?
Well, I said that's what we did.
Okay.
I can't make it as a case study for the MPP. But for us, that's what we did.
But as a statesman, if you are asked to advise.
Oh, what I did is what I will advise.
Okay. So, Honorable, let's move into women participation. It is in local governance. It is something that is very worrying. This sitting president even promised to elect or appoint more female MMDCs. As it stands now, we have only 13%. What do you think? What do you think we should do?
First of all, you must appreciate that the word I have to use, I don't know whether your audience or your viewers
we will ask that you break it down.
Break it down.
Okay.
No, you have to consider ours is a patriarchal society. Patriarchal meaning that the men are the bosses.
Okay.
You know, so almost every sphere of life, women are at a disadvantage, and that is why affirmative action is an important feature of democratic governance. You must give the women an advantage in almost everything that you do. Otherwise, they will always be missing in action. So, for as long as you are voting, women always will stand disadvantaged because the voters don't vote for the women. It's very, very difficult. So what we want, and it is especially unfortunate in the case of local government.
Okay.
Because women are the greatest beneficiaries or victims of bad local governance. Women's major activities in this country, activity is the market. The market is the one activity or function that is a local government function. And therefore, decisions about market must be made, if not exclusively by women, then with a large participation
of women.
Take water. As for men, we get up where you don't have standpipes, your wife will put water in bucket for you to go and bathe, etc. When there's no water in the house, it's the women who suffer. The children, for them to bathe, the women who have to find the water, etc. So provision of water, for example, is an important activity that women must engage in, and so on and so on. When the children are sick, it's the women who take them to hospital. So those kinds of decisions must be made with a large involvement of women.
Okay.
But the patriarchal nature of our society does not allow for that to happen. Historically and culturally, women are not beside men. They are not in front. They have always been at the back.
Yeah.
And that is why we are trying to bring them at least to partner with us, the men, to be beside us. So and this was actually one of the reasons why the PNDC decided that at that time it was 1/3, now in the constitution is 30% of the assembly members must be appointed.
Okay.
Because we knew that the women will be shortchanged through the electoral system.
So through the appointment, you can make up the number.
So when I was minister, for example, we decided as part of the guidelines for the appointment of the 30%, that 30% of the 30% must be women.
Okay.
But in some assemblies where the numbers are few, because there are some assemblies with just about 25 women, or let's say 24, where the women, total assembly number is 24. 1/3 of 24 is 8. 30% of 8 is about 3. So we say it in percentages, and it appears as if we are making a concession.
Okay.
And when you break it down, absolutely,
it's nothing.
Talking about it is nothing. And today that there are even fewer numbers, I hear there are some assemblies with just about 12 or members. You know, 30% of 12 is about 4. 1/3 of 4 is 1, or something like that. You know. So it is not making much of an impact. We have to do a lot of education.
Okay.
As I've been talking, I am observing that you people here, you are shaking your heads. Some of the things you are saying because of, that obviously not adverted your minds to them. So even you in this office, if you have not adverted your minds to them, what about the larger population outside there? They just assume that the world was created for men because the Bible says that the women should respect the men. And it is the Bible that is used to justify the oppression of women and their exclusion and marginalization. And so Christians have a big role to play in this issue of affirmative action. If any organization can bring women up from where they are now, I think that it is the faith-based organizations.
Honorable, let's assume the NDC wins the upcoming elections and you are consulted on this issue. What percentage will you think or would you give to the president to appoint into the local government sector? Judging from what you just said.
I won't.
Will you make any proposals to him?
Well, I will advise
Okay.
that you do it on a district by district basis.
Okay.
Instead of a blanket setting.
Okay.
Because it is not only the women who feel excluded from local government. The traditional authorities,
Okay.
they also complain a lot
Okay.
that the land in which there are people over which the district assembly superintend belongs to them.
Okay.
And yet they are not allowed to participate in decisions that affect the things that are done on the land and with the land.
Okay.
So they also want participation. So you have to look at what percentage you are going to give to the chiefs, the traditional authorities as well. There are some districts which have, for example, Gomwa, and that I can just Gomwa, one of the Gomwa districts, for example, it is populated highly by this Christo Asafo people. They are the predominant group. There's another district in the eastern region where the Savior group is very predominant. When you are dealing with a district like that, for example, you have to take them into account, you know, and give them a certain percentage, etc. So, what we used to do when I was minister was that after the elections, we would ask the Electoral Commission to do what we call an occupational analysis of the people who have been elected. Then, if we realize that, for example, in this assembly, we don't have even one accountant, we look for an accountant, you know, whether male or female. We don't have enough women. We look for a number of women. We don't have anybody belonging to the medical profession. We look for somebody and appoint. And we did that on a district by district basis. I don't know. I don't think that system is as
I'm not sure.
That is the advice that I would give. Now, one of the problems with that with proceeding that way is that the number of districts has increased beyond imagination.
Okay.
So I think that it is going to be difficult. It is also going to take a lot of time to delay the inauguration of the assemblies, etc. But I think that from a scientific point of view, it is the best thing.
Okay. Honorable, there is one profound statement you made in your book that I want to read out and get clarity on that. This is Local Government Decentralization in Ghana, 2nd edition by Honorable. It's written by Honorable. And page 158 of the book says that under the centralized system of administration, the people down below appear to be good because they are never given the opportunity to be bad. But once functions and powers and means and resources are transferred below, the opportunities are created for people below to be bad. Honorable, what do you mean by this?
In the centralized system,
Yeah.
no money goes to the local level.
Okay.
Or very, very little amount of money goes to the local level.
Okay.
So, if you say somebody is corrupt at the local district level, maybe he has stolen 100 cities. So
Okay.
the total amount available is 10,000 cities. But when you do effective decentralization, and that man, that treasury officer, who was managing 10,000 cities, suddenly is managing 100 million cities. The bag for corruption is very, very, very big.
Okay.
And that is when the temptation becomes very real.
Okay.
And it is not theory. That I put that statement there from my own experience.
Okay.
When-
Can you share the experience
Yes,
with us?
when we were transiting into decentralization in 1989, the highest amount that, because at that time the district council, that any district council outside Accra and Kumasi was handling was about 20 million old cities.
Okay.
Their budgets did not exceed 20 million old cities. Then, when we started decentralization, we started with fiscal decentralization. We started with a mechanism that we call seeded revenue, where certain revenue sources were collected by the internal revenue sources, but ring-fenced and assigned to the district assemblies. Suddenly, the treasury officer who was managing 20 million cities was managing about 100 million cities. And suddenly, we realized that misappropriation was becoming very huge at the district level in the first 4 or 5 years of implementation of decentralization. So, because the opportunities were not there,
Okay.
we didn't associate corruption with them.
It was only associated with the central. Okay.
But once you open up the resources, you see that center or local, they are all Ghanaians. And therefore, whatever checks and balances you have at the national level, you have to replicate them at the local level.
So talking about checks and balances, how can we work on that? How can we properly check and balance ourselves at the local level?
Well, that is one of the reasons why we split the position of the DC, the district chief executive, from the position of the presiding member.
Okay.
Previously, the chairman of the district council used to be the district commissioner or district secretary. District secretary. If he is the chairman, he decides the agenda for meetings.
Okay.
If he has misappropriated money, or if he has not implemented a policy that is
he wouldn't dare speak about he wouldn't dare speak about it.
So we split it so that the presiding member can act as a check on the DC.
Okay.
So when we started the system, one of the major complaints was that DCs and presiding members were always fighting. And I used to tell, especially the academics in the universities who had no experience, that's what they were writing in their academic review. And I used to tell them that no, they are not fighting, there's a system at work. Because the presiding member is insisting on checking the DC, and the DC is resisting the check. And that is what you see as a fight. But I see it as a system at work. In fact, it was designed to work that way, so that the DC will not have his way all the time. That's one of the checks and balances that we have. But today, because of the partisan system, and because as much as possible, the DC and the presiding member, the members of the assembly with the majority, they orchestrate things in such a way that both of them come from the same party. That check and balance appears to be breaking down. It hasn't quite breaking down, it appears to be breaking down. Then at the local level, there is also a PRCC, Public Relations and Complaints Committee, which acts like the local ombudsman. Any resident of the district can report the conduct of the DC, the president or an assembly member to that committee, chaired by the presiding member, and they can make recommendations which can result in prosecutions or an ejection from the assembly.
Okay.
Then the assembly itself also has the mechanism for checking itself through a mechanism that we call revocation of mandate. You know, the assembly can decide that you are not performing your duties as an assembly member well enough. So they will start a process whereby 25, not even assembly members, 25 registered voters in the district can petition the district electoral commission. They then have to organize a referendum to decide whether you should continue to be an assembly member or your appointment should be revoked.
Okay.
And in the referendum that is organized, at least 40% of the registered voters must vote. And of those voting, at least 60% must vote to revoke your appointment or elect your membership of the assembly. Once that is done, you are out as an assembly member. So structurally, all these mechanisms are there.
Okay.
And sometimes I get the impression that even the people implementing the system, they themselves, they are not aware that they have these powers, and therefore those powers are not being exercised.
Oh, okay. Honorable, we are wrapping up. Your few words, your final few words.
I will repeat that whichever political party wins the upcoming elections and forms the government, I will propose that one of their first priorities in the local government sector should be to organize a national stakeholder conference on decentralization, to which all stakeholders, political parties, chiefs, women's representatives, religious organizations, we must all sit down and brainstorm. We have operated this system for about 89, for about 33 or 34 years. We have gained some experience. We must be able to tease out, you know, the aspects of that experience that needs tweaking, or that even needs divesting, or that needs improving upon. So if we can have this stakeholder conference going, we would be in a position to discuss these burning issues and try to arrive at a consensus. One of the major issues of which we need a consensus, for example, is what type of decentralization we are talking about. We know we have the devolution type of decentralization, where all the powers are given to the local governments for them to do virtually what they like. Then we have the deconcentration type of the decentralization, where the offices of central government departments are open in the districts. They work in the districts, but they are not responsible to the local authorities. And then we have the delegation type of decentralization, where the minister or the chief director in Accra has officers in the district and he tells them what to do in the district. Unfortunately, the Constitution does not define decentralization. Therefore, every government comes and they decide what type of decentralization they want to implement. And you can't fault them because the Constitution
does not spell out.
I remember I appeared before the Emeritus Professor Albert Fiadu Constitutional Commission and Constitutional Review Commission, and I made this point to them. So in their report, they recommended that decentralization should be defined in the Constitution, so that we all stick to one definition. And they actually provided a model definition. If their recommendations had been implemented, maybe this problem would have been resolved in 2012 when President Mills died.
Wow. Honorable, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I hope it has been useful.
Yes. Thank you very much. So, viewers, this is where we wrap up. But before we go, these are some few books from Honorable Kwamena Ahwoi, and the first one I'm having here is Decentralization Reforms in Ghana, the experiences of the fifth and sixth governments of the Fourth Republic. And this one also says Decentralization in Ghana, a collection of essays. And the last one I'm having here is Local Government and Decentralization in Ghana. This is the second edition, so I am assuming there is a first edition. You can get one for yourself at the EPP bookshop or the University of Ghana bookshop or Kingdom bookshop, or you can as well call 0800 430 430 if you want one. This is where we wrap up on this edition. Honorable, thank you very much. I hope you have learned a lot, but join us on subsequent editions. My name is Emmanuel Frimpong. Thanks for watching.